Is Becky Lynch currently the MVP in the WWE, and why we think her feud with AJ Lee will feed families? This is the Golden Shovel Wrestling Podcast, your weekly roundup of all things WWE storytelling. Let's get in it. We're once again on a massive hot streak of having the three-man team here for the Golden Shovel Wrestling Podcast. Ross, how are we doing?
I'm good, man. It's been a week of returns and some interesting conversations at that, so looking forward to getting stuck in.
Certainly, and Daz, I am insanely jealous of the SmackDown that we're about to discuss, because the opening was great, the closing was great, the middle of it was very much SmackDown, but it's so short that I couldn't remember it. How are we doing?
Yes, I am both ecstatic and a little bit sad that this is going to be the last time I get to open with this great man's journey on SmackDown. So it's a bit bittersweet for me, but I do get to talk about probably the greatest opening to SmackDown since he was on it full time back in the day. So I'm really looking forward to this podcast this evening.
So let's start with the other side of the opening, because we'll talk about the Chicago reaction as we go. Major respect to Chicago for showing John Cena the love, but I think it's time that we praised Sami Zayn early in a podcast, right? And
I didn't sign up for that.
I did. You can disagree with me. I'm fine. You can fucking disagree. I'm going to praise him and say that I thought he did a good job handling the crowd, because they were vehemently booing him out of that fucking ring when he came and interrupted the GOAT. And I thought he did a good job of at least getting to the point. You've seen wrestlers crumble, and if this is a test for Sami Zayn, I thought that was the first test, at least answered before we get to the match. I thought he did a good job for each segment. What do you think?
See, to be honest, it's hard to disagree, right? But I also feel like
you're going to try though, aren't you?
No. But I'm going to play a bit of devil's advocate in the sense that I don't think it matters who it was standing opposite Cena in the ring. I think if they had mentioned the US Open Challenge and then asked John Cena for a match right there and then, the crowd would have popped regardless, because they were getting to see John Cena wrestle. So I'm not sure if it was as much Sami Zayn. He deserves a lot of bad credit for not crumbling, I do agree, because they were against him. I think John did a lot of heavy lifting for him too. It's happy hour in Chicago and I'm here for the booze. I thought it was a nice wee clip. But yeah, and see, to be honest, this is where this is not Sami Zayn's fault, but this is the disappointment for me in John Cena's last SmackDown, is how overbooked this match was, in the sense of it gave us fan service for John and paying homage to all of his past opponents, including the artist formerly known as Edge. But how strong does Sami Zayn have to look in a singles match in SmackDown against the greatest of all time? And I just see, if you're Cena, I don't like the booking. Cena didn't have to do a pin attempt after every one of those moves, because it makes John look weak and it makes Sami look a lot stronger than he actually is, because you're now faced with this US title reign that theoretically cannot end at the hands of a finisher, because
of a human being.
Because he takes an AA, he takes a spear, he takes a GTS, he takes a pop-up power bomb, and you just think, like, it was a super AA, obviously, before a certain someone involved themselves in proceedings, which we'll get to. And I honestly don't think that would have put him away either. I don't think Sami Zayn should have been booked that strongly. However, I do understand that they want John to just have as much fun as possible. So I'm going to end this segment on a happy note and say I'm so happy to watch John Cena have that much fun and his retirement on his last night in SmackDown. It's great to see. He's doing it with a smile on his face. You can tell he's just fucking throwing caution to the wind and just doing whatever the fuck he likes. Yeah.
See, my biggest worry is how you're treating this retirement run. Is that after this pod, when we record this week's Saturday Squash, Roscoe's going to book him in a match at WrestleMania against The Rock anyway.
Yeah, he definitely is. He definitely is.
He might be on my list. He might be.
And I'm determined that it ends. It's hard. We say this all the time, but it's hard to disagree. I think Roscoe, coming to you, that we know that the man with 3 H's is eternally online and aware of the IWC, and both for good and bad reasons. And I think if you look back to SummerSlam and his comments a few days before saying it looks a bit predictable, it's time to fuck shit up, essentially shows that he knows what's going on, he knows how to get the right reaction, and basically generate buzz for his business. You'd think he'd have looked at the match scripting and went, not helping the Sammy Hogan chance, because we know that Adam thinks is unfair, but it's hard to argue that it was unfair on Friday night because it's the strongest anyone's ever been booked.
I cannot remember the last person to wrestle John Cena that looked that strong. I don't.
Yeah, it's interesting, to be fair. I don't hate it because they needed to do something with the fact that if we continually say that Sami Zayn is the underdog, even if us on this podcast disagree with that notion, and I know that certainly that is spreading, the one way to make him not look like an underdog is to make him look absolutely solid. I think they achieved that. Would we agree with that? I mean,
I think they've gone beyond it. I think they've gone beyond it. For a SmackDown match, I just don't see how you now book this guy. You book a credible challenger against this guy unless it's Brock Lesnar. Or I'm not even convinced that if you booked him against Cody now, that I would be able to tell you that Cody will comfortably beat him, because just the way they booked him. I don't know if they booked him in a one-off for fan service to just let John hit those moves, but they now find themselves in a really tricky position with this US title because it's been booked like a world title.
I think that it kind of seemed like that was like a one-off thing just because they gave Cena that kind of one-off, have a good laugh in Clash in Paris as well. And I think knowing that it was his last match on SmackDown, I read into it if it happens this week. If it happens this week, then yes, we definitely
I'll be furious if Sami Zayn spends the first hour of SmackDown on my TV next week and it's not with John Cena. I will be
I'm going to summarise this bit because we need to move on to what happened at the end of the match. Obviously, I think it's fair to say that there is now a level of risk in Sami Zayn's title run, ultimately as to how he loses the title. There's a level of risk a little bit, I think, when about Cena's retirement run now, where let's make sure it stays in that fan service zone and doesn't become a joke. Because if he's just going to hit a finisher every minute like it's SmackDown versus Raw, then there's an issue. I think it could stray too far. It's not going to, because everybody loves John Cena, but at that stage,
he's running out of finishers as well, to be fair. The only one he's got left now is the RKO.
Aye, and I
think it's the only one he's got left, and he tried it.
I know. To be fair, that was good. That was good, the crowd getting involved in that. Obviously, the way the match ended, I think it was ultimately blindingly obvious that that's how it was going to happen to protect both guys. I do want to come with your thoughts, Ross, because I know that you've got varying opinions on the one Brock Lesnar. What's your thoughts coming out of Friday and heading towards WrestlePalooza, knowing that Brock cut a 5-word promo? Which, to be fair, did a really good.
I mean, see you at WrestlePalooza, bitch.
The man knows how to sell a match in 5 words.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really disagree with that. I think it's going to be weird, and obviously Brock's meant to be appearing this week on SmackDown, but Cena is supposed to not be, so we're going to have this weird situation where Brock's appearing on one brand and then Cena's appearing on the other to build a match in the middle. I'm not entirely sure, but I'll watch it. Yeah, obviously, my thoughts and feelings on Brock being in the product in the first place, but if he's going to be there, they're probably doing it the right way in a sense that, he always has been a man of few words, or he's had a manager next to him who does all of the talky bits. I think it could work. It's just going to be weird that I'd imagine Cena's going over, right? Like, we're all kind of in agreement that that's probably how it goes to the end, is that Cena's probably just going to keep on ticking these off.
Just shaking.
I think
Brock's going to, he's going to run some. But we'll get into that when we pick WrestlePalooza.
That's next week's prediction show.
I will say though, if that's what they do, then I really don't get it. But we'll get there.
It's definitely for next week's show because we'll spend hours on this.
Yeah, definitely.
Matt, guys, I think it's an interesting story because we always talk about storytelling and we always talk about how people tell a story in and out the ring. And you particularly love the phrase, I'm really looking forward to this until the bell rings, or
Yep.
I'll look forward to this after the bell rings. We agree that as the three of us, there's two distinct parts to professional wrestling. There's in the ring and out the ring, but they both have to work. Brock Lesnar's a guy who can tell a story in 5 words, and it's why he's worked with Paul Heyman as a manager and he's worked without having a manager, because he's just like, Suplex City, bitch, is 3 words, but you immediately know what's about to happen when that bell rings. But I think my favourite thing about Brock Lesnar is he comes out, takes off his cowboy hat, does his bit for the pyro, puts it back on, and then kicks the shit out of you. And I just think that's so good.
Yeah. I don't disagree. Honestly, Brock Lesnar could sell a match without opening his mouth, and I don't think he needs a frontman. I don't think he needs somebody with a mic, because just the aura that the guy brings as soon as he's facing you in the ring.
I knew that was the word that was coming.
But there's only one man that can match Brock Lesnar for aura, and it's Roman Reigns. It's the only guy who can stand opposite him and look credible. Unfortunately,
there's also no one else in the business who is as believable as you. Just have to look at the guy and know you're about to get beat the shit out of for 20 minutes.
100%. And I'm not going to get too deep into it because we do have a prediction show next week. But I think it's nigh on impossible to book Cena to go over on Brock in the current climate. Regardless of people's thoughts on whether or not Brock should be in the product, I do agree with Ross. I think they're doing this the right way. They're keeping him off TV for the most part. He gets in interference. He cuts his 5 words backstage in the show on VT. See you in WrestlePalooza, bitch. I'm intrigued to see how he handles the crowd on Friday night. I've no doubt that 85-90% of the crowd will be in support of the guy being there just purely because he's there, and they get to react to that fucking sound that happens at the beginning of his music. But there will be an element of that crowd that is hostile towards him, given everything that's happened, or allegedly happened, should I say. So it'll be a really interesting dynamic to see if, because I think he's only been on screen for about 4 minutes maximum in terms of the return plus SmackDown on Friday night there. He's going to be in front of him for at least a good 10 minutes, I would think. 10-15 minutes on Friday. And then I know we spoke about this off pod, but it's really, this match at WrestlePalooza will go as long as Brock's willing to work. We know what Brock brings to the table now. It's how long do you want to go, Brock? And then they'll build a match around about that. So if Brock wants to go 10 minutes, it'll be 10 minutes. If Brock says he can do 25, it'll be 25. So it'll be interesting to see how he handles that heat on Friday. But I don't hate it, because I want to see it as part of John's run. I wish it was under better circumstances, obviously. But yeah, I think they brought him back. I don't know what he does after Cena, if he does anything, or if he gets back on the bench. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I think it's entirely dependent on the outcome of the match, and I think in isolation, again, not to go ahead, you might have a different prediction than if you if we're doing the prediction show next week, and we do have to at least consider the away from the ring stuff. Like, the worst thing you could do is have Brock Lesnar win and then find that you have to shelve him again. Like, that, not the worst thing, obviously. That's, you know what I mean, in terms of storytelling. You don't want him to have a win last and it goes nowhere. So we'll have to consider that as we do the prediction. So we'll go 3 segments to really go through in SmackDown, and the last segment is going to really nicely take us through Raw. I'm going to keep
got great SmackDown this week, didn't I? I just had such a good week. It's great.
Yeah, it was actually alright.
Well, apart from the next 2 minutes, we're going to talk about, because I'm going to introduce this segment.
No, don't talk about Alexander. Don't talk about Aleister Black, please.
No, I've left that off because I don't want to talk about that at all.
You.
I'm going to throw it to you, Daz. I'm going to throw it straight to Ross. Now we're going to move the fuck on with our lives. The women's division on SmackDown needs fixed pronto. It is a shambles, and Charlotte and Alexa being away, and I really hope it's not a genuine Charlotte injury, because that's how we saw it 2 weeks ago, and last week seemed to maybe confirm that.
I think there is an injury there, but I'm not sure they know it's long term yet.
But you've got zero reaction for Julia, who, when she won the title in Saudi, we all sat here and went, "This is brilliant! What a crowd reaction she's got in Saudi Arabia. She'll carry this title. It'll look amazing. It's the right person, and it's just not working, and it's the booking's fault." But now Jade's getting another crack at Tiff. Jade, who won the Women's Queen of the Ring didn't really do a good job of setting the match up. Has been pretty average in a lot of the other matches. Has been carried. Didn't win at SummerSlam. You're like, how many times do you lose before you become a non-credible challenger? So they're the two questions I'm asking for you. Not two questions, I just want your opinion on it, to be honest, both you guys, because I just think it's suffered with the cut to SmackDown we see it every week, but this feels like a low point considering how hot the women's division is on Raw.
I just think it's one of those things where I know we're saying it's the booking's fault, right? And I do agree to an extent that she's not been booked great, but there is not a credible person on that SmackDown roster that's not involved in something else right now. Because if you've got arguably your two biggest names tied up as tag team champs who might not even be fit to wrestle right now. You've got your star in Tiffy and this alleged star in Jade Cargill tied up. Naomi is obviously moved from the blue brand onto the red brand and is now off for the next year. It's slim pickings where they're at right now, and I do think they are building to Nikki Cross, and I think it's just trying to get it to that point where it's going to be Nikki Cross, but my God, I'm losing the will. I just wish Julia needs a manager, but it's not her. That's not who she needs.
Yeah, the issue with Kiana James, I can't remember if it was yourself, Ross, it was Adam was talking to, but it is, I'm not sure her in-ring work. She looks the fucking part. She looks incredible. She looks like an absolute monster athlete. And obviously an extremely good looking lassie. But that then takes the shine off Julia. Because I feel you're drawn to the wrong person. You're not drawn to the champion. What you're saying is
she needs a walrus, or orca, as he was referred to on Monday Night Raw.
I don't like think that. Is that an unfair statement? You don't need
an ugly pal. Is that what you're telling me?
The manager has to elevate the talent, not take away.
I don't disagree.
And I'm not saying that the problem I've got is if Kiana steps into the ring and doesn't deliver, that also takes away, because like she lost in 5 seconds to Michin. You're like, well, that doesn't do anybody any fucking favours.
Here's the headline: Julia not pretty enough. Saunders at the Golden Shovel.
I think she's brilliant. I think she's brilliant. I really like her. I like everything about the look, the moves, the in-ring work, with a title on her. Everything's brilliant.
No, I do get what you're trying to say. That when they stand side by side, see if they didn't have a belt and they stood side by side, you wouldn't know which one was champion. I understand what you're trying to say. Yeah, 100%. I get that.
It's like put Charlotte next to Alexa Bliss. One's 5 foot tall and one looks like this monster athlete. That's at a different scale. That's what I'm getting at. To an extent, it's not. It just Julia's the better wrestler, but you're not making it look like that. And I just think, Ross, you're a opinion on this, but like starting with the statement that we always make on this show. Just put a good wrestler in wrestling matches with other good wrestlers and let them work. That'll do wonders for Julia.
It does like 80% of the heavy lifting. The episode where she appeared with the manager, I wasn't fully paying attention. I will freely admit. But I remember suddenly looking up and going, when did she get a groupie? Because that was it. Just the vibes are a little bit off, and it's not working for me either. I get why they tried it, and I'm not gonna lambast them for experimenting with something. It doesn't work for me. But it's also not the biggest problem, as we spoke about. It's the issue is everything else around that whole division is the key component. It would see if the only problem was the fact that they had a manager paired with her and that wasn't working. That's like a footnote. It feels worse than it is because the situation is just a mess. But yeah, get it back to 3 hours and some of these problems might go away.
The first thing we will say with that is the problems were there when it was 3 hours. At the very least, they were there. You're in a situation right now where your world champion isn't even about, so you do have time somewhere in the card, because they will make time for Cody when he returns, so there must be time in the card for this division. I've obviously said for the last few months, I think you move Rhea to SmackDown and have Rhea go after Tiff. I think it protects Tiff, and protects Rhea from the Rhea Hogan comments a little bit, because on Raw I can understand why she would get it if she was holding back somebody else, but there is no one in SmackDown to hold back because they're not delivering, and I'm not saying it's their fault, but the division isn't delivering, and that's where we'll leave the women's division right now. This might even just be one for like a deep dive on a future squash, how we would fix the women's division on SmackDown, and just take it through there, because I think we could spend a long time on this. But Daz gets to do his good bit. The main event segment, the greatest return since her husband come back, probably.
That's fair.
Yeah, probably.
I'm going to make a few statements, and you've seen these statements because they're in the agenda for the night. But we are seeing, and I'm going to talk about the knock-on effect of this in the Raw segment, because I did mention it to you guys earlier on, but I think we're seeing the best work of Becky Lynch's career, minus one potential drawback, or two, but one for SmackDown and one for Raw. I think she's shown why she is so highly valued and highly rated. I am a huge fan of it's not just me saying it, it's Sports Illustrated, because she's just taking the piss out of Trump, and it's genius.
Yeah, it's really well done. It's really
brilliant.
Well done.
I'll start with that, but if you want to just take me through it, and then take me to what I thought was the perfect return on Friday night, despite it being obvious it was coming.
Yeah, unfortunately in this day and age in wrestling, there is no way to hide everything from the dirt sheets. You still get the occasional surprise a la Brock Lesnar, but yeah, set up perfectly with starts with Seth Rollins in the crowd, and then Becky Lynch, and then CM Punk, and you get this really good. You spoke about it last week, Sanders. You didn't like the whole. It's almost like a DV angle where you just can't touch her. Right, it's obvious what that was leading to, of course, but they handled it really well on Friday night with the Punk basically addressing it at the beginning. This has got nothing to do with you, blah blah blah. Your man side behind you, and then we get that segment again. And by the way, some of the heat behind those hands was good. But before I move on to, like you say, that I personally think it was a better return than Punk's, in my opinion. I was more excited for this than I was about Punk. But
Sure, in next week's Saturday Squash, the greatest returns of all time.
This ship books itself. I've always been critical of Becky Lynch's in-house promotional work and the way that she comes across and her demeanour in ring, etc. This is the best booking she's had since she was one of the four horsewomen. This is the best booking since the man, the original man with the 2 titles, 2 belts, Becky.
The face man.
100%. It's the best booking she's had since then, and it's the best she's been. I thought Lyra. I thought she was good with Lyra, but she was still a bit whiny at times. This, right now, where we're at, has been perfect. Now, she's only got 2 more nights to ruin that before we get to Wrestle 3 potentially, but 2 more nights before WrestlePalooza to undo that. Yeah, I think our mic work's been great. Her and Seth are a match made in heaven in terms of their persona and their characters. The two of them gel perfectly. We'll get to what we think that means on Raw towards the end of the podcast. But yeah, the greatest return, in my opinion, probably since Edge at the Rumble. This is probably the best. I just think it lacks the wow factor, because everybody knew it was just all signs for AJ Lee. It was welcome back signs. Like, everybody knew she was coming. But for everybody to know that you're coming into that arena and to get that monstrous pop is fucking incredible. And she's not very well known for her wrestling. I don't think people know her in this day and age for her ability as a wrestler. I think they just know her as a bit of like a kind of cult pop icon in women's wrestling.
Back in the Divas era, but she was one of the top in the ring, yes. But
for those who watched it,
but 100%. She was far and away the best character. She was the best mic walker.
Yeah, that's what I mean. She's pop culture.
She is.
See if I was to say to most people, name me 5 of AJ Lee's best matches, they would go right Paige, and then they would go
Paige again,
and
Paige twice.
they'd probably just scratch their heads, and that's not a bad thing, because for people not to know your catalogue of work and pop like that for you is incredible. We all know where it was headed, and without giving too much away for Raw, we're getting it booked, which makes no surprise to anybody. The thing I'm really most intrigued about this is it's a multi-year full-time deal. And
that was the bit that intrigued me the most, yeah.
I think we've seen instantly where this is headed beyond the tag match with the fact that she took the IC title.
And I don't
so this isn't just going to be a one and done. It's going to be a one and done with Seth, but it's not going to be a one and done between these two, and I am fucking fully locked in. I am here for it.
And the next thing on the notes is immediately when Triple H posted Ross the contract signing, I went, that does not look like a one night contract. That looks like a real deal. And but it means we can bring this along slowly and organically. She's going to work a tag match. She'll work spots in a tag match. She's not going to be expected to.
She'll wrestle Maxine Dupree. She will not
go get straight like a warm up on the night.
Aye.
That kind of thing. Because I thought that was probably the only thing was that you could see with her promo on what would have been Monday night, Tuesday morning for us, was that at the beginning she's a little bit slow to get going. And then she starts picking up the steam, and then when Becky comes out, it just is gathering pace. And they're right, okay, you're finding your feet again. I like that. Don't get me wrong, right? I would have all enjoyed it if it was just a one feud, one and done thing. We'd have probably went, this is fun, and it keeps some people out of pictures that we can't really put them into wherever they fit in the jigsaw. But more of it is great. I also really liked how on Raw she was like explaining to the kids of why all your millennial parents were marking out when they saw me. I was like, brilliant, fantastic, good line. I'm really intrigued to see it because I don't remember too much about her at her peak. But I think that was because my interest was kind of waning with the product as much. But I can instantly see it now. And she's only had like a combined 25 minutes of airtime. And then I'm like, right, I see it. So give us more. That's all I ask.
She's actually underrated. That's how good she is. And I think we'll move on for SmackDown because it bleeds right into Raw. So I think we just need to move on to Raw and bring it all together. But watching CM Punk's face, like as she was skipping a bit and doing her bit, was like, this is.
He was so happy, man.
That's what wrestling's all about. That's why we love it. Like you just have an emotional investment in what's happening in front of you for 5 hours a week. It's brilliant, and it's good to see because she did always say that part of the reason she stepped away in 2015 was she felt like she was in the middle between Punk and the business, the WWE, and she couldn't do that, and she took time off to be with Punk and have a life outside. And to me, she's done amazing stuff. She's been a script writer and a screenwriter for Netflix shows and stuff like that, and done a whole lot of stuff. So she's done amazing things, and now it's like it feels like it had to happen. I like my full circle moments, and I feel like she had to come back and her and Punk be there, and the stories that you can tell. I'm going to just bring one thing up quickly. See when you go and look at somebody put it on Twitter, and I'm not going to be able to find it, right? Because I can't find anything that's up to date. When I googled it, I would need to go back through Twitter. I should have screenshotted it for myself, right? But you look at the list of female wrestlers that Becky Lynch is feuded with. You know, Charlotte, Alexa, AJ Lee, Lita, Trish Stratus, Naomi, Ronda Rousey, Natalya, Asuka, Bayley, Sasha. Like, it is literally the 20 best female wrestlers of all time, including herself. Like, it is. She's walking about calling herself she's the greatest woman of all time, and it's going to be hard to argue that, I think, when she retires, just because of the work she's done. But we can talk about that another time. Just a quick mid-pod item I had here. I won't dwell on it too long, but there seems to have been a couple of tweets and rumours kicking about that there was a planned draft or shake-up happening in September. It's been canned. Now, I'm not necessarily going to come to you guys for your opinion. I think we're all on the same page with this. I think it's worth pointing out that this could just be the people who predicted it 5 or 6 months ago try to cover their analysis by saying, it's been canned, because they've made some changes between the brands anyway, but I think it's much needed. And I think for anyone that does join us for Saturday Squash this week, certainly from my side of things on Raw, you will see a couple of matches booked with a potential shake-up or draft in mind where we think people should move, or I think people should move anyway. So, interestingly, doesn't seem to be happening, but we all here at the Golden Shovel think that it is overdue because SmackDown needs a bit of balance, and especially in that women's division.
100%.
So we're on to Raw. Yeah, we're on to Raw. And we'll save the AG Punk Seth Becky stuff all until the end. Let's start with two wrestlers that I feel. I'm going to bring these two bits together because I don't only talk about the individual matches. Two wrestlers that I think have been wasted in the last few months, and that is AJ Styles and Penta. Now, Daz and I, you and I both get passionate about Penta every week because we're just like, the guy did everything he was supposed to do in his first few months. The guy went and learned English just to go to WWE, but delivered in the ring, delivered out of the ring, got a crowd connection. Maybe it happened too quickly because stories are set well in advance, but not only did you book him against Rusev, but he fucking lost a match. He lost to the fucking New Day last week. I know I got pinned a week before, 2 weeks ago. AJ Styles, good match with El Grande Americano, it was fine. Good opening, early, Raw, mid-card match, but if he's not winning the IC title, I think he's just shown that he's well above that level, and I'm worried that they don't have a proper plan for him in his last year.
When is his actual contract up?
I believe it's post-Mania. I'm not totally sure when.
I'd actually read a rumour that AJ Styles' contract isn't even until Mania. I'd read somewhere that someone was speculating February.
Yeah, because that's the thing I'm trying to work out. Like, because people have been saying this is his final year, and I'm like, we've been saying that since like Mania, and I've been trying to work out when it actually runs. So, if it is February, I don't think he'll get a title run, unfortunately. However, it's almost like they wanted to change the guard on SmackDown and move the US title onto someone new. Imagine if AJ Styles came out to wrestle John Cena in a US Open challenge. That would have been much better than Sami Zayn. But AJ has been wasted because he's kind of like, you know how we often refer to Jey Uso as a safe pair of hands? See if you'd put AJ in against Jey and Jey's title run in the main event picture for 3-4 weeks, let him run a program. It would have elevated Jey and shown that AJ can still hang at the top level. They don't really know what to do with him, and I think they're trying to keep him away from guys like Penta because the both of them are being wasted so much that essentially one pinning the other kills the other one entirely.
It ruins them both.
Yeah,
if you're the guy that does the video. I seen a really interesting scenario. So obviously the promo that he cut, I'm not saying it was a heel promo, but it was teasing a little bit of a turn that he's been left himself and he's not happy with Triple H and blah blah blah. So I have taken into consideration for the Saturday Squash. I've now just realised his contract expires 6 weeks before WrestleMania next year, so that
they'll extend it. I don't think it'll end in February.
No,
I don't think it'll end in February.
No, I don't think
Put it like this: without having to give away too many spoilers, you don't have to have an active contract to be in the fantasy.
Well, we know because you booked a guy who fucking retires in December.
Yep.
So he says.
The point I was going to go away, and I'm interested to see your thoughts on this, is could we see AJ Styles and Team TNA versus Team NXT a Survivor Series run about that time?
That's an interesting
I don't hate it either, because
yeah, that's an interesting one, because obviously he did kind of tease doing something when he dropped down for Slammiversary.
Yeah.
And then it kind of just didn't happen and he continued on. So, I mean, I'd watch it.
Oh, I would watch it.
Me too.
I hope they stick that on the Saturday up against an AEW show.
I feel like this is where it's headed, right? And I do feel like this is where AJ's final run is going, and I'm kind of glad that you mentioned that, Saunders, right? Because there was something that really stood out to me about the last few days over the weekend. We knew AJ Lee was coming back. All the dirt sheets and reputable people are saying that we are not finished with returns. there are some big returns expected over the next couple of months in the WWE. I think he's going to get the band back together, and whether that be Gallows and Anderson or Balor, etc., from the Bullet Club. And I do think we will get Team TNA versus Team, Raw, essentially. But it might be a mix of SmackDown, whatever it might be. But I think the end goal for AJ is probably to let him retire as TNA champion. I think that's probably where they'll go, because see, if it was anybody but Dom, he probably would have won the IC title. I just don't think they want to take the belt off that guy because he's fucking money, and that's unfortunate for AJ. But because if he was not going to win it in France, he was never going to win it anywhere. He had more chance of winning in France than he did in Georgia, and that's his hometown. So I think he'll finish as TNA champion. But I would love to watch, I'm booking it in my head right now, and it's Gallows, Anderson, Punk, AJ, and whoever else you want to put in that versus your TNA champion.
You're forgetting that one of the Tamatonga was also part of the Bullet Club.
That's fine. That's fine.
The
MFD's get about 19 members too many. But you can also have your TNA champion. I won't say their name because it might not be them by the time we get there. But then you've got the Hardys. Do you know what I mean? Think about how you could book that match. I'm in. Saunders, you've convinced me. If AJ Styles doesn't get involved in the 5v5...
What about Finn and AJ versus the Hardys for TNA tag titles? I mean, there's lots of options.
Two belts, Finn. 2 belts, Balor. I don't hate it.
I'm up for anything. It's interesting to see. It's interesting. I think.
I just think you need something fun, something more exciting than what he's getting.
I'm not going to dwell too long on the Penta side of things because I think it was going to keep going until they do something. But because my worry here is that where the fuck is Rusev's never going to win a world title, so why are you booking him so strongly? Like, he doesn't need to win every feud that way. Ross, coming to you on the next topic here before we hit probably 45 minutes talking about this next picture. But Lyra losing again to Raquel. Now, I'm glad they're keeping Raquel looking strong, but this isn't a good look from a Lyra perspective, considering where we had her 2 or 3 months ago.
It's a strange one, isn't it? Like, they kind of sold it in match as just having her back targeted. But I'm kind of on... I don't know if I'm missing some subtext here about why the back was chosen. I'm a bit confused by it. Like, yeah, we like the Judgment Day, and we like that pairing a lot, and we really like what Raquel's becoming. So on that side, fantastic, great. But if we think that Bayley's going to return, which judging by the VT packages, it looks like she's certainly going to not be heel immediately on return. That was the take I took. And if she's going to go back to be with Lyra and some sort of maybe she's going to pick her up off the ground, pull her up by her bootstraps, and then snap, it can work.
I like what you're saying, Ross, the old Batista. I like what you're saying for back in the day. I like it. I agree with you. I think that's where I see it being booked, is that Bayley will come and help her, and they will tag against the Judgment Day, and then Bayley will beat the shit out of her, and then we'll get a great 3-month program with Bayley and Lyra, which I'm very excited about. So
I'm also hoping for that. That could be a fantastic PLE match.
Take you all the way to the Royal Rumble. That feud.
Yeah, easy.
It's a hell of an important feud, because as we're going to get to, as we talk about the main event picture and even the Saturday squash, Triple H has shown that he won't put the same feuds on every PLE. You will have
on the alternate things
around.
So you
need
put something on a Friday night or a Monday instead. Yeah,
definitely.
That feud becomes so important. The other thing that's obviously worth mentioning here, and we won't dwell on it too long because it's going to be a huge part of the prediction show next week, but obviously Stephanie Vicaire, for whatever reason, was unavailable last night. It seemed to they put it into travel issues. I don't know if there was anything else there.
I have thought on that, actually. I have a thought on what that's going to be.
Go for it quickly, because I've got something.
I think the thought is going to be that Asuka's laid her out. That's what I think is going to come out from that, I think.
So that's an interesting point, because I don't disagree. I can see that, but the issue we have here is Stephanie Vicaire has not been in front of a live audience since the 28th of July. That is 6 weeks.
What?
That is a long time for your
Wow.
number one contender. We said this. There's been she won that battle royal. They had to shelve her to keep her away from the feuds. She should have been ringside. She should have been watching the build up to other matches, and she should have been involved in the division. She wasn't. Dad's not even moaned about this every week. Like, genuinely, it's the one thing pisses off the most. We will, as a team, but that's one thing we talked to. I think it was the two of us, was just how bad that felt.
Yeah.
6 weeks,
I do think,
and you have one Raw to build your world title match. It's
I
a
don't
huge
think
problem.
I don't think it'll be Vicair.
No, it's not going to be.
I think that the Eve shot themselves in the foot massively. I think they've maybe, and this is just pure speculation. It's just how I read into these things, but
it's our guess based on.
But
we all agree that momentum's been lost.
Yeah, but I don't think it's been lost. I think it's been lost because of a decision that WWE have made to sign a superstar. They've signed I think it's the sister of the man who abused Stephanie Vicair. So they are now, in essence, sharing a locker room. And I'm pretty sure she's got an injunction out in this person, so I'm not sure how and it happened roughly in the last 6 to 8 weeks, and she's not been on TV. She's only done backstage segments. So
it's not a good look, man.
It's not, but I also get that you cannot just not sign someone because their brother is a bad bit. Like, I get that. You cannot punish her for her brother, but by all accounts, for what I've read online, this person's not innocent in that either, but hasn't been proven guilty. So it's kind of spins you all the way back to that Brock Lesnar type scenario. So, but their decision to sign her and put her on developmental is a worry, probably, for Vicair. And I don't know if it's backstage politics. I personally don't think it will be Vicair. See, to be honest, I'm not even convinced we're going to get a title match at WrestlePalooza.
No,
I'm not sure it's going to happen.
Either.
I think we might get a tag match. I think we might get Io and Rhea versus Kabuki Warriors. I think is where it might end up. I do think they'll write her off TV to say, as you suggested, Ross. I do think it'll be Asuka and Kairi that probably write
but the
it
real
off
reason
TV.
is what you've.
The real reason is potentially backstage
out.
politics for some, and
So
I'll be gutted if that's the case because she was in the form of her life.
Here's just some information that may or may not be relevant to the situation. So that the wrestler El Cuatrero, it was
Triple H
released.
she signed for, isn't it?
Aye, so he was released on an arrest warrant. No, he was arrested in 2023, denied parole in 2024, released in March of this year, pending the further prosecution of Reyes. His real name's Rogelio Reyes, by the Prosecutor's Office of Mexico City. A rumoured motion of forgiveness from Vicair was vigorously denied. So I wonder if there's maybe been further development in that case. March to the end of summer would be, if there's any potential further prosecution, maybe there's something that I don't know.
I'm sure the person assigned to Triple A is his sister. I'm almost certain of it. And there's animosity between the two. I'm sure she's got an injunction against her or something like that. I was reading it at the time where Triple Mania was live. I was reading about it online because people were like, I cannot believe they've made the decision to sign this person. I had no idea what they were talking about until I went down a wee bit of a mini Twitter rabbit hole. But I took it all with a pinch of salt because it could be fucking, could be right in it. Do you know what I mean? But yeah,
no, I'll do some. Let's say he's not got a sister. I don't know. Then
it might be a partner. It might be a partner. I don't know. But anyway, if anyone in the comments is a bit more clued up than we are, or you're listening on audio, stick it in the Buzzsprout and let us know. We're a little bit out of the loop when it comes to all things Lucha Libre, etc. So
it's I think I'll try and do as much research as I can ahead of the prediction show next week because it's going to obviously play a huge part of it. But there's I just can't see Stephanie Vicair appearing on that match. And I do genuinely hope everyone's okay because we think she's an absolute fucking superstar.
I did say last week this is what she did need a total reset before she gets her push. Hopefully not under those types of circumstances because that was
I know. And now it takes us on this the big part. So I'm going to just immediately say that I'm fed up with this same tag team match finishing Raw, and that's why I've basically skipped that whole thing. They need to do something better with LA Knight. Don't ruin them we're going to mention B&B in a minute, but this is very, very difficult for a feud that's relatively, it's in its infancy, I guess, including AJ Lee in it. But these 4 people to close out SmackDown, and then close out Raw 3 days later, and captivate an audience both in the arena and worldwide on television both nights, because it's too easy to get on board with this. I have been on the record and I've said I have been getting bored of Seth Rollins Punk and said it has to come to a head. I think it will come to a head pretty soon. But this new wrinkle has breathed life into this feud for me. I think it's brilliant. As is loving Becky's work, I think Becky's carrying the feud right now because Seth's doing this hiding behind her thing. And obviously on the other side, you do have the return pop carries you for so long. So what's more interesting will be is how does AJ Lee continue over the next few weeks? Because I thought a promo last night was brilliant. She had the whole crowd chanting for therapy. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And I thought you know, watching Raw is therapy for me. So having the whole crowd chanting is brilliant. The question I'm going to ask before we really dive into the characteristics of the match and where the feud might go, does Becky being such a huge part of this stable in this feud once again sideline B&B, because they've now not appeared with Seth twice or 3 times in a row? They've run a tag. We've said for a while they should go to the tag division. That's where they should go, right? But they actually now need their mouthpiece in Paul Heyman, because they're not with the mouthpiece of Seth Rollins.
Where was Paul Heyman last night?
He was written off telly by getting choked out by Roman at Clash in Paris.
Oh, really?
He's still
We're
in a
writing him off
WWE medical facility.
Aye. So that's what I'm saying. So you've at the one time where they might need a bit of a mouthpiece, they've taken that mouthpiece away. Seth's doing Seth things. Becky's a mouthpiece in the future. So you've now got one of the best women promo talkers of all time, one of the best male promos of all time, and arguably the greatest manager of all time, technically part of the stable. So we just...
Once they're all together as a 5, Braun and Bronson will not speak again. Because they are 4th and 5th on the line. And
yep.
I do agree with you. I know we had a wee kind of brief conversation off pod in the Discord about this, and I won't say too much because I know Ross has got some thoughts on what it looks like for B&B beyond this, but I don't really... Are they trying to tell us that this stable is going to go its separate ways? Is that where this is headed? Are they just going to accept that they've tried it and it's not working and it's time to divvy it up? I don't know. Russ?
It does make me think that from seeing what we saw last night, which I agree was fantastic, I quite enjoyed that whole main segment. Obviously the end's just a bit iffy, but it does really seem like Becky's going to be the wedge, the same way that we thought JD McDonough was going to be the wedge in the Judgment before they just decided to keep the Judgment on forever.
4 more years of Judgment Day.
Yeah. I think she's going to be the wedge that eventually splits it all up. Now, again, I don't think we can even really work out to the detail how that's going to be. We can speculate, and we probably will as the weeks and months go on here, but I would imagine if they are going off, if B&B are off side questing with the Usos against the Usos with an LA Knight floating around that, they're going to eventually be getting enough airtime. They'll get a big win, you would think. They'll elevate themselves. At some point, there will be a promo or a feud or a realization more than will turn to the other and go, we don't need him because he clearly doesn't care about us because he's spending all this time with Becky. And that would make no sense, right? Because they are literally married. It doesn't make sense in a logical sense, but in a we are 2 heels splitting the thing up. It's perfect storytelling.
It's what we spoke about, isn't it? It's how do you break it up knowing that they are husband and wife? How do you do it on TV? How do you let them go their separate ways? And I don't know if AJ Lee is the key for that she's only temporarily part of this stable, and beyond the tag match, she will just go back into one-on-one competition, and that'll be it. But it's also the perfect making for a Braun Breaker face turn, I suppose, isn't it? Is probably
also
because
true,
it's going to be Braun before it's Bronson, I think.
There is one, to me, there's one very clear path to a Seth and Becky on screen not split, but separation of the story.
A baby angle. Was Seth's the daddy of another baby?
No. It's just it's going to be, to me, it's a huge part of it. We're about to record in 10 minutes time. I don't want to go into too much detail.
Okay, you'll have to listen to the Saturday Squash.
To find it. But I feel as though this is the only issue of this week's SmackDown and Raw. Like, there were good shows, but beyond talking about John Cena and then talking about this huge intergender tag match, which is the right match to start the feud off with, it buys a little bit of time for the inevitable Punk Rollins coming to a head. The rest of it was pretty bang average. Like, people were saying this Jericho's going to turn heel. I'm going to save that conversation for the prediction show, because I think that's going to be a huge part of how we predict that match. My answer to that question is going to be no, but I'm going to go into detail as to why.
Well, good. We're going to have an argument then.
Without going into too much detail either, I think you could be right.
I think you could both vehemently be incorrect, but
it could be.
Massively
incorrect. Could be massively incorrect. But interesting. I feel as though we're now in a situation where the problem is that AJ, Punk, Seth and Becky now have the hot feud that everybody's really interested in watching and enjoying, and B&B are almost in a holding pattern, because we're going to get Roman versus Braun Breaker at some point, probably Australia or Survivor Series. So from that perspective, it's like they just have to wait. That's the match we're all waiting on. The interesting thing with the WrestlePalooza match for them is going to be, why would you if you bring the Usos back together like Jason and Jimmy, I need you, and then you lose, that's a problem. But also, Braun has to keep looking strong, otherwise Braun versus Roman is also completely pointless. It's pointless anyway, because Roman has to run through these people if the end goal is Seth, which with each passing week I'm starting to think it's
I'll just say, a certain man was name dropped last night in Monday Night Raw between the Usos. Maybe worth thinking about.
Very true.
Ahead of the prediction show.
So that prediction show's got fair play. There's layers to that prediction. It's not just about these two teams in a match. But
ultimately, though, before you continue, I know to interrupt you. Ultimately, this is what we want, though, right? There is about 3 or 4 different ways that all these different things can all shake out, and it gets you talking.
And we know for a fact they will book the worst one. We know that for a fact.
I hope not. But I'm intrigued.
You can see how your storytellers are and how they tell stories. It's what we enjoy about professional wrestling. But I just keep looking back at my notes and going, I just want to continually say that Becky, AJ, Punk and Seth are brilliant. This is what professional wrestling is all about. It was just
very good
promo for AJ. We said the quip about your millennial parents are marking out, here's the reasons why, was brilliant. She had the knee-high Converse on, which just brings back memories. She was taking the piss at herself wearing the jean shorts 2 sizes too small. It was great promo. Next week will be great. WrestlePalooza will be great. The Monday after will be good. Then, to me, the hard work really kicks off. What happens when you move on from them? I remember when the Hardys returned and it was the Jeff Hardy says, what do we do once the nostalgia pop has passed? Do we have to classify ourselves obsolete?
Can she still hang? Can she wrestle?
Can she hang? Because the question I had when I said this to you last week, if she returns, do we have a worry that she is in the Divas era, i.e. Nikki Bella? The 3 moves that she hit on Friday night were very much Divas era wrestling moves. They were not where the Divas, the women now wrestle. So I think she can. She is an athlete. I mean, she's done non-wrestling athletic stuff for the last 10 years. She's an absolute athlete, but there is now a position where they can bring it on slowly. It doesn't have to all be perfect wrestling from day one.
I agree.
And I think at that point, we'll end the pod there just under an hour, nice and quick, because we've got a huge prediction show next week. We're about to go and fantasy about next year's WrestleMania, so join us on Saturday morning for that as usual, and you will see all the clips from that on TikTok and YouTube over the next few days. So signing off there, back next Tuesday to do the prediction show for Clash in Paris, it's not. Back next week to do the prediction show for WrestlePalooza, which I'm sure will be a great show. Take it easy, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.